pushing and a pulling in the great big harbor. In the great big world, there's so much fun. So many brand new things to discover. Waking with the sun, gotta get the job done. Oh, Theodore and Emily, Foduck, Hank and George, and the harbor master too.
Welcome to the big harbor. Can you hear me? I said welcome. Hello. I'm just trying to welcome a ship into the harbor here. It's very noisy. You see, my friend Rodney is trying to welcome the same ship by playing his bagpipes. Ahoy, can you hear me? Oh, for goodness sake. This is so annoying. Rodney, could you please stop playing those bagpipes? There. Oh, that's better. Maybe I shouldn't have yelled at Rodney like that. See, I remember how Foduck felt when someone yelled at him.
It was the hottest day of summer. The dispatcher was just beginning the morning work meeting. He was busy talking to Emily.
"Foduck," whispered Theodore, "spray me with your fire hose."
Okay. The two tugs quietly backed away from the others. Theodore just loved being sprayed on hot days. And Foduck just loved having fun with Theodore. Foduck turned, aimed, and whoosh, sprayed. But Theodore quickly slipped away.
"Miss me!"
He laughed and gave a little whistle. "Everyone, please stay in line," said the dispatcher. But Theodore and Foduck hadn't heard the dispatcher. Foduck chased Theodore in a little circle, aimed, and sprayed the dispatcher. "Foduck, stop spraying that fire hose," the dispatcher shouted. Well, all the tugs were very quiet after that. They had never heard the dispatcher shout before. They listened very, very carefully as the dispatcher continued the work meeting. But Foduck felt so bad the dispatcher yelled at him. He wished he wasn't even there. He just wanted to disappear under his own hat. After the dispatcher had given out the jobs for the day, he turned to talk to Foduck. But Foduck was gone. Foduck went along on his regular safety patrol, making sure that all the ships were safely tied to their docks. All the bell buoys were in their proper places. And that nothing dangerous was floating in the water. Now, Foduck usually enjoys making sure the harbor is safe, but not today. Today, all Foduck could think about was how the dispatcher had yelled at him. It must be because the dispatcher does not like me anymore, he concluded to himself. A little while later, Theodore and Barrington Barge were taking a big load of oil barrels to the fuel dock.
"There's Foduck,"
said Theodore. Theodore whistled to say hello to his friend. But Foduck didn't whistle back. "That's strange," said Theodore. It seemed to Theodore that he had never seen his friend floating so low in the water.
"Let's hurry and finish so I can go and see what's the matter with Foduck," said Theodore.
"Okie dokie," said Barrington. Barges are always so nice and quiet. Barrington unloaded his barrels at the oil refinery. Usually, Theodore always double checks to make sure Barrington's barrels are stacked properly. But today, he really wanted to go and talk to Foduck as soon as possible.
I'll take you home, Barrington, said Theodore.
Okie dokie, replied Barrington. Well, Theodore didn't have to look too far to find Foduck. The safety tug was floating under a dreary old gloomy tree in a dreary old gloomy part of the harbor. Looking, well, dreary and gloomy. Theodore put on his brightest smile and blew his cheeriest whistle.
Hi, Foduck. What are you doing?
Nothing, replied Foduck in a very quiet voice.
Is everything okay?
Said Theodore. Well, Foduck didn't say a word. He really didn't feel like talking to anyone.
Well, I was thinking, continued Theodore, that you could spray me with your fire hose again.
As soon as Theodore said that, Foduck remembered how the dispatcher had shouted at him. And that made him hurt deep inside, all over again.
Foduck, spray me. Come on, said Theodore, nudging his friend. Come on.
Last time I sprayed you, the dispatcher yelled at me, said Foduck. Go away. Leave me alone. Foduck decided to just go home to his dock. But then he saw the dispatcher. I can't go home, he told himself. The dispatcher doesn't like me anymore. Foduck felt like no one in the whole harbor was his friend anymore. There seemed like only one thing to do. And so, Foduck, the vigilant, set off out of the big harbor forever. He was just putting along when he saw something floating in the water. He floated closer. That's strange, he thought to himself. It was an oil barrel. And then he saw more barrels. And then he realized with a shiver that they were starting to sink. I must save those barrels, Foduck shouted out loud. He raced this way and that, trying to catch the oil barrels, but they kept bobbing away from him. Bobbing and sinking. Foduck knew there was only one thing to do. He blasted his emergency whistle. It was a tugboat call for help. Another whistle answered. It said, I'm on my way. It was Theodore. What is it, Foduck? We have to get those barrels to shore, cried Foduck. Fast! Right away, Theodore had an idea. Foduck, tie your tow rope to mine, he shouted. Foduck was puzzled. How could tying his tow rope to Theodore's catch oil barrels? But if Theodore had a plan, that was good enough for him. Well, I have to say it was a wonderful plan. With their tow ropes together, the two tugs roped those bobbing barrels and pulled them right back to the fuel dock. Thank you, Foduck, said Theodore. I should have double-checked those barrels. Well, thanks for coming to help me, said Foduck. I didn't think you would. Well, why not? Asked Theodore. Foduck was silent for a moment. Oh, I just thought, well, I just thought you didn't like me anymore. Theodore was quite surprised to hear this.
Well, why do you think we aren't friends?
He asked. Oh, replied Foduck, because I yelled at you before.
Oh, you were just having a bad day, said Theodore. But why were you so upset?
Because the dispatcher yelled at me, replied Foduck. I don't think he likes me anymore.
Well,
said Theodore after he thought for a moment. You yelled at me, and I'm still your friend.
you are?
Said Foduck.
Of course I am,
smiled Theodore. Do you think maybe the dispatcher is still my friend too? Said Foduck thoughtfully. You're right, said Foduck. There's only one way to find out. Thanks, Theodore. Oh, Foduck, said the dispatcher. I've been looking for you all day. You have? Said Foduck. Yes, continued the dispatcher. I wanted to tell you I was sorry that I yelled at you. I lost my temper. Sometimes, said Foduck, I lose my temper too. And I thought you didn't like me anymore. Foduck, said the dispatcher in a very gentle voice, I will always like you, no matter what. Well, I'll always like you too, said Foduck quietly. Foduck, said the dispatcher. Yes, said Foduck. I have a favor to ask you. A special favor. Yes, anything, said Foduck right away. It's been a long, hot day, said the dispatcher with a smile in his voice. Well, yes, it has. And your fire hose is the very best way to cool down. Well, you didn't have to ask Foduck twice. He turned, aimed, and whoosh, he sprayed the dispatcher. Spray me too, shouted Theodore, floating over. Spray me too. Theodore just loved being sprayed on hot days. And so did the dispatcher. And Foduck just loved having fun with his friends.
Like I always say, the harbor that sprays together stays together. Actually, I just made that up. But you know, that story reminds me of something that I should say at Rodney. You see, he was trying to welcome that ship out there in the harbor by playing those bagpipes of his, till I yelled at him. Rodney, I'm sorry I yelled at you. Let's welcome the ship in together, okay? All right. Thanks for visiting us here in the big harbor. We'll see you again next time. 1, 2, 3,
Theodore, he's a tugboat and a friendly tugboat too. A friendly tugboat too. Oh, Theodore and Emily, Foduck, Hank and George and the harbor master